Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show that's all about getting you the critical insights you need fast without the information overload. Today, we're plunging into a concept that's truly everywhere around us, shaping our daily lives and the technology we interact with, yet it often operates unseen. Feedback. What if the simplest interactions in your day are actually part of much larger, more powerful loops, guiding your choices and shaping the very systems you rely on?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because something so seemingly straightforward, simple ding, or maybe the button changing color, it has such intricate layers beneath it. It influences everything, from our motivation, our drive, to even our sense of autonomy. From the basic mechanisms in our homes, like thermostats, to the complex algorithms on our phones, feedback is pervasive and often incredibly subtle. So today, our mission is really to peel back those layers. We're exploring what feedback truly is, the delicate art of gathering honest human insights in design, its profound psychological impacts in our digital world, and, the double-edged sword of AI's burgeoning role in all of this.
Right. And to give you that shortcut to understanding, we've consulted a whole range of sources, everything from detailed usability guides, cutting-edge AI research, all the way to the ethical principles shaping modern design. By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a fresh perspective on feedback in all its forms, from the obvious notification sound to those deeply hidden loops that silently steer our digital lives. Okay, so let's start with the fundamental question. What exactly is feedback in the context of user experience? At its core, it's simply the responses you get after interacting with the system, right? Imagine clicking a button and seeing it subtly change color, or maybe a loading bar inching forward.
Exactly. Those immediate visual cues tell you your action registered, that something is happening, it's acknowledgement. And it's not just visual. Think about audible feedback, that distinct notification sound, maybe a little success chime after you complete a task. Though it's important, we shouldn't rely solely on sound for accessibility. And let's be honest, too much of it can quickly become really annoying.
Oh, definitely.
Then there's haptic feedback. That gives a physical dimension to a digital action. That slight vibration you feel when typing on your smartphone, or maybe a more pronounced buzz confirming a critical payment.
Yeah, like on payment terminals.
Right. It adds this layer of reassurance that a virtual action has a sort of real-world consequence, makes it feel more solid. And, of course, the ever-present textual feedback, a confirmation message, an error prompt, or just simple instructions on screen.
So those are the immediate kind of direct forms of feedback, straightforward responses, but things get truly interesting, I think, when we move beyond just a single response to a continuous process, what we call feedback loops. This is where the output actually starts changing the future input, isn't it?
Exactly. That's the crucial step up. It's about distinguishing between an open loop and a closed loop. An open loop is basically a one-way street. The output has no influence on the system's future behavior. Think about an old washing machine. You set it for a fixed duration, say 60 minutes. It just runs for that time, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of whether your laundry is spotless after 30 minutes or still dirty after 60. The outcome doesn't alter the process.
Right. No learning, no adaptation involved. It just does its thing. But a closed loop, a true feedback loop that introduces that dynamic, that constant adjustment.
Precisely. In a closed loop, the output alters the input, changing the system's future behavior. Take that washing machine again, but now imagine it has a sensor that detects how clean the laundry is. Now, the output, the laundry's cleanliness, dictates how long the machine runs. It stops only when the desired state, clean laundry, is achieved. It's constantly adjusting based on real-time data.
Ah, okay, that makes perfect sense. The system is using information about its own performance to guide itself. And you mentioned there are two main types of these closed loops, and they can have dramatically different effects. And crucially, positive isn't always good.
Yes, a very critical distinction indeed. First, we have balancing or negative feedback loops. These loops are all about maintaining stability. They aim to bring a system back to a desired state, like equilibrium. Your home thermostat is a perfect example. It turns the heat on or off to maintain that set temperature you want.
Right.
Or our smart washing machine stopping when the laundry is clean. They act in reverse to any forces that try to push the system away from that equilibrium. They create stability.
Okay, so they dampen changes, keep things steady. What about the other type, the ones that can really get out of hand?
Those are the reinforcing or positive feedback loops. And these are fascinating because they do the opposite of balancing loops. They amplify the original input. The output changes the input in a way that makes the future output even more amplified. Think about desertification. Dry land reflects more heat, reduces rainfall, which leads to further drying,
Mm.
which supports even more desertification. It's a tragic self-reinforcing cycle.
Yeah.
Or think about the success to the successful phenomenon. Maybe winning a competition brings prize money,
Hmm.
which allows for better training and equipment, which leads to more wins, which then brings more money and resources. It amplifies the initial success. It's like a snowball effect.
That's a really powerful idea, how something can just spiral either upwards or downwards, often without an external force needing to step in.
Exactly. And this is why these loops can lead to profound, often quite unforeseen, changes in large systems. Think climate change, financial markets. Unregulated positive feedback loops can actually lead to system collapse because they continually amplify whatever started them, which often isn't sustainable in the long run.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How often are we unknowingly caught in these escalating loops in our daily interactions, both digital and personal?
Paul Watzlawick, in his work Pragmatics of Human Communication, he described how people interpret their own behavior as just a response to someone else.
Right, like I only did that because you did this.
Exactly. But that behavior is also a cause for the other person's next response. And this can lead to escalating miscommunication or even conflict, that whole you hit me so I hit you harder dynamic. That's a dangerous feedback loop in action, right there in human interaction.
That's a really clear way to see these loops playing out, even in our personal relationships. Okay, so moving from how systems give us feedback, let's flip it. Let's talk about how we actively seek feedback to improve things, specifically in user experience design. Usability testing is like the cornerstone of this, right? But here's where it gets tricky. Human nature, it seems, introduces some common pitfalls that can really reduce the value of those test sessions. It's fascinating because getting truly useful feedback isn't as simple as just asking someone, hey, what do you think?
You're absolutely right. It's a huge challenge in practice. Designers frequently encounter, well, let's say 4 common issues when trying to gather honest, actionable feedback. The first pitfall is that basically people don't want to hurt your feelings. It's human nature. Participants know designers have invested significant time and effort, maybe even stayed up late working on this thing, so they naturally tend to give overwhelmingly positive feedback, avoiding criticism. They're often just too polite to be truly helpful.
Yeah, that's a classic human trait. I imagine it must be incredibly hard to get people to voice real critiques when they feel like they're, judging someone else's baby. What's one surprising way designers have found to get around that politeness barrier?
Well, the key is to brief participants properly before you even start. Set the stage. One effective tactic is to de-emphasize your personal involvement. Maybe you say something like, look, I've been hired by another company to test their design. Takes you out of the equation a bit. Or you could be really explicit and state that you genuinely love negative feedback because it's the only way to actually improve the design. You frame criticism as a gift, basically. That can make them feel much more comfortable being honest.
So it's about setting the right psychological stage from the get-go. Makes sense. Okay, what's the next challenge?
The second pitfall, and it's related, is that people often assume you are testing them, not the design. Participants can become overly careful, right? They fear they'll appear stupid if they can't figure something out immediately. So instead of pointing out a confusing design element, they might apologize for stumbling or blame themselves. And that obviously leads to inaccurate results.
Yeah, I can see that. It's an understandable fear, especially when you're navigating something unfamiliar with someone watching. How do you reframe that dynamic so they don't feel like they're being graded?
You need to be really direct. Explicitly state you're testing the design, not them. A good script might be something like, look, today we're not here to test you at all. We're here to test the design. We actually know this design probably has some issues, and we really need your help to identify those issues. This helps them get into the right mindset. They shift from feeling like a student being tested to being more like an expert consultant or an exam invigilator, helping you evaluate the design.
That's a powerful shift in perspective, yeah. Making them collaborators rather than subjects under scrutiny. Okay, what else gets in the way of good feedback?
Third, people often focus on completion rather than the journey. We're kind of hardwired to finish tasks, right? So in a test situation, participants might adopt this complete at all costs mindset. They might do things unnaturally, maybe clicking every single link frantically just to reach the end goal you set for them. And once that goal is achieved, they often forget all the little frustrations, the bumps in the road they encountered along the way, and just give positive feedback like, yeah, I did it.
Oh yeah, I know I've done that myself. You power through some annoying online checkout process just to get to that order confirmed page, and then 5 minutes later, you've forgotten all the frustrating bits. So how do we get them to talk about those bumps while they're happening?
The best technique is to encourage thinking out loud. Ask them to vocalize every single thought as much as possible. Even something simple like, okay, I think I want to click this button because I assume that's how I purchased this item. And if they fall silent, you gently prompt them with, what are you thinking right now? Or what's going through your mind? Also, as a facilitator, you need to observe closely. Note down any strange behaviors or hesitations during the test, and then make sure to ask about them in detail during the follow-up interview. I noticed you paused here. What was happening?
Right, capturing the process, not just the outcome. Okay, and finally, we've learned so much about structuring the test itself, setting the scene.
The fourth pitfall is kind of the flip side. People can often show you more if you let them. Designers sometimes assume they've observed all the main pain points by the time the assigned tasks are done. They might wrap up the session too quickly, missing out on valuable additional feedback and ideas that weren't part of the specific test plan.
So don't cut it short just because the main tasks are done. It sounds like there's often more beneath the surface if you just create the space for it.
Exactly. The solution here is pretty straightforward. Always end with a post-test interview. Ask open-ended questions like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how easy did you find it to complete that last task? Get their overall impression. But crucially, ask something broad like, do you have any other feedback or ideas on the product? Anything at all, even if it's totally unrelated to what we just did. Even if their ideas aren't directly implemented, hearing their broader perspective helps you understand their mental model and can uncover issues or opportunities you might have entirely missed otherwise.
Those are incredibly practical, really human-centric tips. It just highlights how important that subtle framing is for gathering accurate, truly actionable feedback. It feels less about just collecting data points and more about deeply understanding human behavior and psychology in context. Okay, so moving from how we actively seek feedback, let's now turn our attention back to the constant, often overwhelming streams of feedback we're given by our digital world. From wearables, tracking our steps, to social media notifications and mobile apps guiding our choices, these platforms deeply rely on and actively create feedback loops. And these loops, while they offer truly mind-blowing benefits on one hand, but they also carry some pretty insidious risks that maybe we're only just beginning to fully grasp.
Indeed, it's a real duality. On the positive side, these data-driven feedback loops have incredibly powerful impacts. Take health and wellness. Wearable devices, fitness trackers, smartwatches, they provide real-time data on our physical activity, heart rate, sleep patterns. And these insights genuinely do seem to promote healthier lifestyles for many people. Studies show measurable improvements in both physical health and mental well-being. Mindfulness apps, for instance, using guided feedback can significantly reduce anxiety levels.
And it goes beyond just health metrics, right? It's also about keeping us engaged, motivating us.
Absolutely, that's a huge part of it. For motivation and engagement, think about gamification elements. Those streaks for daily activity or earning badges for hitting goals, they really tap into our drive and motivate healthy behaviors. Features that encourage friendly competition or cooperation can also foster incredibly strong user engagement, keeps people coming back. And social media, for all its criticisms, does provide a sense of social connection through likes, comments, notifications. These little signals help build what sociologists sometimes call social capital, the value and influence we derive from our social networks.
Yeah, I can certainly see how those little pings of validation, that feeling of being seen or connected, can be really motivating, even addictive sometimes.
They absolutely are designed to be motivating. Even in performance enhancement, think about subtle haptic feedback in wearables that might guide your movement or posture during exercise, or real-time behavioral feedback, maybe on your speaking pace or posture during a presentation, can dramatically improve your delivery and self-assurance. These are powerful tools to nudge us towards better outcomes.
Right. But as we know, with great power often comes unintended consequences. It's clear that while these feedback loops offer incredible utility, making things easier or more engaging, they also come bundled with some serious downsides that we're only just starting to fully understand the long-term effects of.
Unfortunately, yes. The constant exposure to digital feedback, especially maybe from social media notifications, has significant negative psychological impacts that are becoming clearer. One major issue is technostress and mental fatigue. This isn't just, feeling a bit tired. It's the real psychological strain and even physical symptoms resulting from constant exposure to technology. Continuous notifications, the pressure to respond, the constant stream of information. It leads to overwhelm, demonstrably lower productivity and genuine mental exhaustion.
Yeah.
A recent survey found something like 74.4% of participants felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume of digital prompts they receive.
Wow, 3/4 of people. That's huge. And what about that feeling of being constantly pulled back, feeling hooked?
Well, that leads directly to addiction and compulsion. The dopamine-driven reward systems, the likes, the comments, the notifications, they create these really potent reinforcing loops. They encourage that frequent checking behavior, which can easily slide into compulsive patterns. Some research even indicates this can actually lower our neural sensitivity to social rewards over time.
Meaning real-life interactions become less rewarding.
Potentially, yes, our brains become less responsive to genuine social interactions. And there's concern it can even impact brain development, particularly in adolescents who are constantly immersed in these loops. This, in turn, can lead to a subtle but really significant loss of autonomy. Users' actions, their choices, even their moods can be unconsciously shaped by app feedback. Reliance on external metrics from wearables, for example, can diminish a person's belief in free will. One study found 78.5% of survey respondents felt less independent when apps dictated their daily decisions, like how much to walk or when to sleep. Constant monitoring can also impair creativity and foster conformity, doing what the app tells you instead of listening to your own body or intuition.
So it's not just that we're being gently nudged, it's that our very sense of self-direction, our internal compass, can actually be eroded by relying too heavily on these constant external feedback loops.
Precisely. And it fuels social comparison and anxiety. The constant exposure to curated lives on social platforms, the comparison of likes or followers, it contributes significantly to feelings of rejection, negative self-evaluation, anxiety, depressive symptoms, and that pervasive fear of missing out, or FOMO. Another survey found 75% of participants reported heightened anxiety directly stemming from these kinds of social comparisons online. And finally, all these factors, the stress, the compulsion, the anxiety, they converge on productivity loss. Despite often being marketed as productivity tools, a staggering 95% of survey respondents acknowledge that feedback-seeking behaviors like checking notifications frequently have negatively affected my productivity and well-being.
Those are pretty stark numbers across the board. It truly underscores the ethical concerns for designers and developers, doesn't it? We're talking about things like dark patterns, those sometimes quite manipulative design choices like infinite scrolling that never ends, or autoplay videos that just keep rolling things specifically crafted to exploit these psychological loops and keep us engaged longer than we might consciously intend. It really highlights how designers have this profound responsibility to weigh these psychological consequences when they're crafting digital experiences, not just focus on engagement metrics. Okay, these feedback loops are already incredibly complex, shaping so much of our experience. But now we have AI stepping into the ring as a rapidly evolving player. It promises immense power, particularly, it seems, in automating the analysis of just vast amounts of user feedback. So what does this all mean for AI, and how is it changing the game for feedback?
Yeah, AI brings some truly remarkable practical benefits to the table, especially for managing feedback at scale. For one, automated analysis. AI can summarize and classify massive volumes of user feedback, think tens, even hundreds of thousands of bug reports, feature requests, comments, reviews, general sentiment coming in through, say, a large enterprise feedback widget. It can quickly identify common issues, pinpoint emerging trends, gauge overall sentiment, extract key suggestions. This is work that used to take teams hours, maybe even days, of painstaking manual effort.
Right, so it's taking all that raw, unstructured, often messy data and making sense of it almost instantly. That's a massive time saver, surely.
Exactly. And that leads directly to streamlined operations. AI can group known issues together automatically, help prioritize which bugs or features developers should tackle next based on frequency or user impact, and significantly reduce response times to user queries. It can even guide product roadmaps by highlighting high demand for features that might not have been on the radar before. So it's not just about saving time. It ensures valuable feedback isn't overlooked in the flood, and that products can evolve much faster in response to user needs. And looking specifically at wearables, generative AI holds promise for enhanced personalization. Imagine AI dynamically adapting interfaces and functionalities based not just on your past behavior, but potentially your current cognitive state or even aesthetic preferences. AI could learn to adjust notification frequency and tone to prevent cognitive overload for you specifically, or personalize performance metrics to your individual goals rather than comparing you to some generic competitive standard.
That sounds like an incredible leap forward, potentially, making technology truly responsive to us as individuals, maybe even anticipating our needs before we voice them. But as we've explored throughout this deep dive, with such powerful systems, there's always a flip side, isn't there? What's the big challenge, the potential pitfall, when AI starts relying heavily on human feedback for its own learning and improvement?
That's the core problem, yes. The inherent challenge lies in the quality and nature of the raw user feedback that we might feed into AI models to train them. One major challenge is simply interpreting user intent. Let's say an AI asks a user, "Did this answer solve your issue?" And the user clicks no. That simple no is incredibly ambiguous. Did it mean the answer was factually wrong? Or were they just annoyed by an indirect answer? Maybe they disagreed with the underlying policy the AI stated, or perhaps they were even intentionally trying to manipulate the system for some reason. The AI doesn't know why it got the no, just that it did.
And if the AI acts on that unclear no, blindly trusts it, it could be making the wrong adjustments, effectively learning the wrong lesson from the interaction.
Precisely. Which leads to another major issue, selection bias. The feedback users choose to give is often not representative of the user community as a whole. We know response rates for things like online surveys are often very low, sometimes less than 10%. This means the data AI gets is skewed. It often overrepresents the most vocal users, who might be the unhappiest ones, or those with very specific edge cases. This leads to limited, potentially quite stale data if you're waiting for enough responses to be statistically significant, so the AI isn't getting a full balanced picture of user experience.
And we've seen high-profile examples of users actively trying to mess with AI systems, haven't we? Like that famous chatbot from Microsoft a few years back.
Yes, absolutely. That's the third problem, intentional manipulation. Users can, and sometimes do, deliberately try to influence the AI, often maliciously. Microsoft's Tabot back in 2016 is the classic example. It very quickly learned to echo hateful and offensive content directly from user interactions on Twitter. It's incredibly difficult, maybe even impossible sometimes, to automatically distinguish intentional manipulation from genuine negative feedback. Even the major social media platforms grapple constantly with this challenge at enormous scale.
So if you just blindly feed all this potentially flawed, biased, unclear, or even malicious feedback directly into an AI model, hoping it will automatically improve, it sounds like a recipe for disaster or at least continuous degradation.
It's what some researchers call the trap of automatic improvement. Feeding low-quality, biased, ambiguous, or stale feedback directly into AI models for self-improvement can, paradoxically, lead to a continual degradation in the quality of service. For instance, if users give a thumbs up to an answer that's actually just okay or less than perfect, maybe because they don't know a better answer exists or they're just in a hurry and want to move on, the AI reinforces that mediocre outcome. Over time, these suboptimal responses can drown out the truly helpful information, essentially polluting the model. It's like a student learning bad habits from other students, rather than from a knowledgeable teacher who can provide nuanced correction.
So the lesson here seems crystal clear. Don't just abandon the human touch entirely. Even the tech giants behind systems like Alexa and Siri, they employ thousands of people, right, to curate, tag, and evaluate real-life interactions. They're acting like that expert teacher grading the AI's homework, not just letting the AI learn unsupervised from potentially messy student notes. They ensure the AI learns from the right kind of feedback, the high-quality stuff.
Exactly. Human oversight, curation, and sophisticated evaluation are still critical. And this brings us neatly to another crucial area, where human insight and ethical design are absolutely paramount: accessibility in user interfaces. While AI faces challenges in processing feedback effectively, it also holds immense future potential in proactively improving design in the accessibility space. Accessibility, just to be clear, is about ensuring that products and services can be used effectively by people with visual, auditory, cognitive, or physical disabilities. It's not just a nice-to-have, it's increasingly a legal requirement, it's certainly an ethical responsibility, and it also significantly expands the potential user base for any product or service.
That's a vital point, and one that's maybe still overlooked sometimes in the rush for new features or sleek designs. What are some of the common accessibility challenges that still frequently pop up in digital interfaces?
Well, quite a few persist. Many UIs still present complex structures, nested menus, poorly labeled elements that are incredibly confusing for screen readers, essentially making digital content invisible or unusable for visually impaired users. There's also often a lack of proper keyboard-only accessibility. This is vital for users with motor impairments like cerebral palsy who can't accurately use a mouse or touchscreen. If you can't tab through all interactive elements logically, the site is broken for them. And poor color contrast remains a surprisingly widespread issue, making text difficult or impossible to read for users with low vision or certain types of color blindness. The exciting part, though, is looking at AI's future potential here. Imagine AI tools that could automate some of the complex tasks involved in making design accessible from the start, or AI providing continuous real-time suggestions to designers during the creation process, flagging potential issues. We might even see future screen readers powered by AI that are capable of understanding much more complex website navigations and interpreting sophisticated language or visual information. This really shifts the focus for AI, moving it from just reactively processing feedback to proactively helping build more inclusive designs from the ground up.
Wow. What a profound journey we've taken today, really. We started with the fundamental types of feedback: visual, audio, haptic, textual. Then we dove into the surprising nuances of gathering truly honest human insights during usability testing, getting past politeness and assumptions. We navigated the powerful yet often perilous digital feedback loops that constantly shape our behavior, sometimes reinforcing habits we don't even realize we have. And finally, we explored AI's complex and evolving role, seeing it as both a powerful analyst for vast data streams, but also a potential amplifier of existing biases if we're not careful. We've really seen how deeply feedback is woven into, well, everything we do, from the simplest interactions, clicking a button, all the way up to our fundamental well-being, and how it profoundly shapes the tools and systems we rely on every single day.
It truly highlights the duality, doesn't it? Feedback has this incredible potential for good, promoting health, motivating us towards goals, fostering social connection, making products genuinely better and more efficient. That potential is undeniable. But so is its undeniable potential for harm, causing technostress and burnout, fueling addiction and compulsive behaviors, the insidious erosion of our autonomy, and even perpetuating societal biases if baked into algorithms without care. So the big lingering question for all of us designers, developers, users is, how can we best harness the undeniable power of feedback, especially now with AI entering the picture so forcefully, to genuinely enhance human experience? How do we do that without compromising our independence, our mental health, or inadvertently building in new forms of inequality?
And maybe for you, our listener, as you navigate your increasingly interconnected and AI-driven digital world, perhaps the most important feedback loop to become truly aware of isn't just the signals the technology gives you. Consider also the subtle, maybe profound ways your interactions, your clicks, your likes, your comments, your own feedback, how all of that feeds back into the system, how it shapes the algorithms, the content, the very digital world we all share. Every click, every like, every piece of data you generate, whether you intend it as feedback or not, becomes an input into these vast loops. So maybe the final thought is, what feedback are you giving, consciously or unconsciously? And what kind of future is it reinforcing?